Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Charlene. I am the owner of NeuroSense and you are joining me in the second part of our 5-part series talking all about wax melts. So thank you for joining. If you are returning, welcome back. The second episode is all about making wax melts, but specifically today we are going to be talking about the equipment that you need to get started and packaging options. So let's start off with wax. I know we spoke a lot about wax in series 1, so you should have a good idea of which wax you want to be working with. As I said before, do your research, find one that you think will suit you, and obviously go ahead and purchase. You've got the options of soy wax, coconut wax, beeswax and paraffin wax. Obviously each one has its benefits. We're starting off with wax, obviously, which is the main component of wax melts. The second thing we need to consider is the fragrance that you use. I guess the ingredient that gives the wax its fragrance. So that's why it's important to choose a really good quality fragrance oil. The other thing we need to consider is if you want to make your wax melts a different colour. So what we use to colour wax melts is again your preference. So you can use liquid dyes, dyeing chips, dyeing blocks, all of those work really well. So another thing to consider is whether you want to use a silicone mould. So silicone moulds are the most popular choice because they come in a variety of shapes and sizes and are easy to use. When considering your type of mould that you want to use, it's also a good idea to have in the back of your mind what type of packaging you want to use. For example, if you wanted to make the rectangular block style wax melt, so you need to determine what type of packaging would be best to store those wax melts in. So another thing we need to consider is melting your wax. How are you going to melt your wax? Now, if you're a novice wax melt maker, a good way of starting off melting your wax is using the bain-marie method. So basically a bain-marie is a boiling source of water. You put another bowl on top, and within that you have the wax in order to melt it. So another essential tool that you'll need for your wax melt making is a thermometer. So thermometers are extremely useful because when working with wax you need to know what temperature to boil your wax to, what temperature to add your fragrance oil in, what temperature to pour your fragrance oil at. So it's very important that you have a thermometer in order to keep an eye on the temperature. You'll also need a tool to mix your wax melts with, and you're going to need a scale or a digital scale to help measure your wax and your fragrance oils accurately. So now that we've got our materials and equipment ready, let's move on to packaging ideas. Now I have done a video on packaging ideas, but I thought I'd quickly go over it in this video just so you can begin to get an idea of the type of packaging that's available, and therefore it might influence the type of packaging that you will buy to make your wax melts in. So starting off with these heart-shaped plastic containers. So with these, once you've mixed your wax and your fragrance oil, when it reaches a certain temperature you can pour it into this mold, it will set, and then obviously you'll have these beautiful heart-shaped wax melts. Another type of packaging are these cute little boxes. Again, it's a really good option for your wax melt packaging, but also do remember that if you are putting your wax melts directly into the box, there's a likelihood that the wax melt may bleed the fragrance onto the box, therefore making your wax melts less strong. So make sure that if you are going to use this box, that you are lining your box with a glassine type lining. Another option are these little bags with an iridescent background. Again, these are press lock bags and they are really good for storing wax melts of the same scent in. Another option could be a glass jar, a jar of hearts perhaps, but also, yeah, another good option of putting your wax melts in, especially if you've got like small heart-shaped wax melts, cubed wax melts, circular wax melts, another really good option. So what I tend to store my wax melts in are these bags. So again, the bigger version to the smaller press box bags that I showed you. But these bags are really good because if you're thinking about displaying them in a shop for say, or you're taking them to a market, they're really good at standing up by themselves. So this is a really good option. It also keeps the wax melts nice and fresh and it doesn't bleed onto the bag. Another good option are these cardboard boxes. Now, as you can see in the video, I have lined the cardboard boxes with some parchment paper. If I'm honest, parchment paper isn't probably the best thing to line your boxes with. Again, I would go with a glassine type liner. But even using glassine, it's not 100% effective in making sure that the fragrance doesn't bleed from the wax melt. So do bear that in mind when you're thinking about this type of packaging. And last but not least, I have these. For my business, I use these little tubes for my wax melt selections. So just a little bit about, because I had some questions in my last video about why I individually wrap my wax melts. Doesn't it take a lot of time? So in the UK, unfortunately, we are not allowed to mix fragrance oils, as mentioned in the last video. This even comes down to wax melts touching. So if you have two separate fragrance wax melts touching, that's not allowed. So if I'm doing a pick and mix selection at a market or just selling them on my website, I make sure that each wax melt is individually wrapped to prevent them from touching one another and the chemicals essentially mixing. So this is a really good idea. It's effective. You're able to differentiate the wax melts from one another, which is another legal requirement in the UK. And I also send this out with a CLP card. A CLP card basically has the ingredients. It has what to do in the case of an allergic reaction. The CLP card also has my contact details, the name of the fragrance, the name of my business, etc. So if anything did happen, the customer would be able to get in contact with me. Also has the batch number of the wax melts. So in order to be compliant, each wax melt needs to be differentiated from one another. So I've gone ahead and just popped on a little sticker so you can differentiate the scent, and also they are different. The wax melts are actually different colours. So now we've spoken about packaging ideas, we can actually move on to mould ideas. So there are so many moulds out there. If you go onto Amazon and you click in, or you type in wax melt moulds, you will get a plethora of moulds that come up. At the moment here, I've got a few to show you. I've got some cubed wax melt moulds, some smaller square wax melt moulds, some circular ones which I have had personalised with my logo on there, and I've also got some heart shapes for Valentine's Day wax melt moulds. What I'll also do is I'll link all of the sizes of the packaging or the packages down below so that you have an idea. There was something else I wanted to say. When choosing your wax, have a look on the website to find out how much fragrance your wax can hold, because some waxes can hold up to 10%, some waxes more, some waxes less. This will determine how much fragrance oil you can put into your wax. But also, check your fragrance oils, because not all fragrance oils can go into wax melts. You need to read the information below the fragrance oil. You need to check the IFRA 50 certificate to make sure that the oil that you are buying or you are choosing can actually go into wax melts. please check that document for each company because they're all different. Once you're comfortable with wax melt making, you can maybe think about purchasing a wax melter or a pot that is able to melt your wax for you. I have one here. I have a video of me unboxing it and using it, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. You're able to melt a lot more wax all at once. You can separate the waxes out into different jugs, adding different colours, and then being able to mix them and just be more experimental with your wax melts. So yeah, please do go ahead and watch that video if you're thinking about buying, if you're thinking about upgrading your business and buying a pot to melt your wax in. So you may need an apron, you may need some gloves, and depending on how often and how much fragrance oil you're working with, you may need to purchase a mask. The fragrance oils are quite strong and they do come with their own warning labels, so please do bear this in mind when you are working with fragrance oils. So now that we have our equipment ready, we have our packaging ready, we are essentially ready to start making wax melts. So please do join me in the next video where I will be taking you through a step-by-step process of how to make wax melts. If you've liked this video, please do like, and if you want to join us for more videos in the future, please do go ahead and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye.